Making modern mythology. Today I'm going to take a look at one of my favorite classic old school films, Tales from the Hood, by the director Rusty Cundieff, a guy who's made some really impactful films that are focused on the black community. Now with Tales from the Hood, this is where horror becomes a mirror. He didn't just make a horror anthology, he builds a shrine to black subconsciousness, right? Each story in Tales from the Hood is a seance, a conversation between the living and the dead, between history and the hood, between trauma and the truth. And this film masquerades as horror, but it's actually ritual therapy, a cleansing disguised as chaos, and all told in this very mythological style. I really enjoyed it, and I think it demands a little bit of understanding. Now, we start off here with this funeral home scene, where Clarence Williams III, as Mr. Sims, he's not just a mortician. He's a gatekeeper. This is the Anubis figure guiding souls towards judgment. And the funeral home is the underworld. It's not a Christian hell, it's an ancestral court. Each coffin contains a case study. Each story is a moral pathology report on black American condition, policing, self-destruction, denial, and guilt. And Sim, he's this super ego. He's the part of the psyche that whispers, you know exactly why you're here. So this isn't for entertainment purposes. This is really him getting into the crux of what this judgment is going to be, right? So we start off with a really good piece, which is the roll cops, right? Now this is the first tale, and it really sets a hierarchy, because this is where justice refuses to stay buried. So we have some cops who kill an activist and think that they're going to bury this story, right? But the rot is so slow and it stinks forever, and the corpse returns not as a horror but as history's revenge. And this is a form of return of the repressed, right? This murder activist is the collective consciousness, the soul America keeps trying to lynch. And these white cops represent denial and projection. Every unhealed racial sin, which is shoved into the basement of the national psyche, is clawing its way back. And the black cop, he suffers the most in the guilt. That's the ego cracking under the weight of knowing that you stood by while your brother was being crucified. His punishment isn't death. His punishment comes in awareness. So it's very powerful telling, and they really did a great job with this. This is building some real deep mythology, and that's what we see reflected in this scene right here, man. And I'm telling you, the director did a great job building this myth. Now the next one, man, this is Do Get Bruised, which was actually my favorite story in here. This is about a child who draws monsters, and this is all about inner God principle. His imagination is actually his divine will. His words, his spells, his crayon drawings, these are his grimoires, and they're very powerful. His abusive father becomes this mythic. He's the monster of the house, right? He is this false patriarch, the figure who pretends to be a provider, but he's really a predator. And when the boy says, "I'm not afraid," and destroys him, that's not horror, that's actually a Genesis moment. This is him reclaiming his power by naming it, which is important in ancient African metaphysics. They're hidden in the child's drawing, but they're really speaking to the ideas of manifestation and claiming your own agency, while he's dealing with all this brutality that was going on around him. But we see some positive things, the mother being protective. We see the third party, the village. Cundieff himself represents the village stepping in, whereas this is what we see from this bruised father and how he ultimately ends up crushed, right? So we see that. And this all goes back to some very ancient mythology. So this is, actual myth being written about in modern sense. Now the next one, which I think was probably the most impactful out of all these, was the KKK Comeuppance stories, the Plantation haunting. Now we're getting into real ancestral justice. This is the Fetish archetype, where the spiritual energy is concentrated into objects. The dolls, they were our heroes here because they embodied our memory. The dolls weren't going to let that slide, man. No way. Each one of them holds the wrath of a forgotten ancestor. Fragments of pain trapped in this clay, cloth, and hair. And the Confederate politician being devoured by these spirits isn't just an evil man dying, right? This is history consuming itself. On a psychological layer, the haunted house is America's psyche. The dolls, this is unleashed trauma crawling out of the walls. They're everywhere. And guilt never decomposes. Guilt breeds. Guilt gets stronger when you don't look at it. And it comes back and actually reclaims him. Now, when we get to this part here, this is the hardcore part of it. This is real. He's really getting into like the false prophecy. This is the final story, is the Book of the Dead, or the Book of Coming Forth by Day. This gang member is gunned down, revealing the sins in his afterlife. He's guided, questioned, and judged. His ego is trapped in this repetition compulsion, repeating violence because this is literally the only language that he knows. And we're talking about Crazy K here and all the guys that would be, linked to that. They all killed each other or responsible or complicit. And this isn't hell punishment. This is awareness with no exit, right? He's stuck in this. You're going to endure this no matter what. He's screaming for salvation. He's begging to wake up from his own dreams. This is his thug myth forced on him by system and culture. So he reveals this twist that, Mr. Sims reveals that you're already in hell. This is what hell looks like when you guys are killing each other in this way. So this collective shadow, like the Tales from the Hood, is a black collective consciousness that's turned inside out. Every ghost is a memory. Every monster is a trauma. Every scream is confession. So why this film endures is because it holds truth that no sermon can really carry. It says that polite society won't deal with the hauntings that are always denied, that the damned that refuse to heal are going to come back. Our salvation isn't in heaven, it's in facing ourselves every day. So Rusty Cundieff built a mythology that is disguised as a horror film. He weaponized cinema into a mirror, one that forces the black soul to look at both its pain and its divinity. Tales from the Hood isn't about the dead. It's about the living who've forgotten that they still live. And Mr. Sim, he's not the devil like I initially thought. He's the truth teller. He's the griot at the gates of memory that's whispering, welcome to the other side of your own personal denial. This is where the stories that you've been spinning, stop telling them now, because you're going to get hit with the real story. And that's what it reveals. Brilliantly done. And this is a great case of stories becoming mythology in a modern sense.